I always kept my headphones on while I worked. Just one earbud, low volume. A playlist I'd built over a decade, refined down to the exact BPM for focus. Some ambient post-rock, a little lo-fi jazz. Nothing that drew attention. Music was the one part of my day that still felt untouched, mine. So when that song came on, I didn't think anything of it at first. It was jarring, sure. A different tempo. A different language. Slow R&B with lyrics about taking off someone's dress in the backseat of a car. Not obscene, just invasive. Too intimate for my usual background hum. I paused my code, checked the Spotify tab. It wasn't a suggested track. It had been liked. And not just one song, an entire private playlist had appeared in my library. Titled, in lowercase, Playlist for Her Private Mix. I blinked. That wasn't mine. I clicked into it. Dozens of songs. Love songs. Lust songs. A few that made my stomach twist with how specific they were, like the kind of music you'd send someone when you want to say things you can't out loud. Some of them had hearts next to them, like by my account. Except I didn't like them. I didn't even know them. And they sure as hell weren't my taste. I stared at the playlist title again, then clicked into my listening history. There it was. A string of tracks from the playlist, played 2 nights ago, around 1 a.m. I had been asleep. She had said she couldn't sleep and went out for a walk. She didn't kiss me goodnight that night. I remember that now. I opened the Devices tab, heart pounding like I was about to find a stranger's face in my house. Only one device was listed. Her phone. My account was still linked to her phone. I'd logged in during a road trip last fall, when mine glitched out. We never logged it out. I scrolled back through the history. A dozen new likes, all recent. All romantic. All coordinated, like a breadcrumb trail laid carefully. And they were hers. I knew her taste. She liked upbeat indie, bouncy pop, acoustic guitar covers of 2000s hits. But these were sensual, brooding. Like someone else had built the list, and she was just listening along. Or maybe she was the one who built it for someone else. I sat there for a minute, not moving, the screen casting a pale light onto my face. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I picked up her phone while she was in the shower. I told myself I had every right. My name was on the account. But the truth is, I knew I was crossing a line. I just didn't care anymore. Her phone was unlocked. She never used a password around me. There was trust between us. Or I thought there was. I opened Spotify. There it was. The same playlist. Saved. Liked. I tapped on the profile icon. My face, grinning stupidly back at me from the little avatar. My name. But the recent activity, the song likes, the listening times, they weren't mine. I scrolled down. One playlist hidden from view. My stomach dropped. It was hers. Titled Crescent Moon Late Night Thoughts. Private. Unshared. But I could still see it, because it was my account. I opened it. It was darker. Not just in tone, but in purpose. Lyrics about longing, distance, sneaking around. Several songs titled with first names I didn't recognize. A few repeated tracks from playlist for her. Different covers of the same songs, as if trying to find the exact version that hit hardest. I felt sick. Not just from what I was reading. From what it implied. This wasn't casual listening. This was intimate. Curated. Hidden. She was building soundtracks for someone else. I heard the water shut off. I locked her phone and set it back down on the nightstand like it had burned me. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, over coffee, I asked her about the playlist. Tried to sound casual, light. Hey, did you make some new mixes on my account? She blinked. Her face didn't change. New mixes. Yeah, playlist for her. Private mix. She went very still, then laughed, too quickly. Oh, that? No idea. Maybe Spotify glitched or something. You know how it pulls random stuff. It's full of love songs. She shrugged. Weird. And you like them? On my account. She looked down at her mug, her fingers tightening slightly around the handle. I don't know. Maybe I accidentally hit the heart button. I was scrolling late the other night. I couldn't sleep, remember? I do. That was the same night those songs played at 1 a.m. She didn't answer. I pressed further. It's linked to your phone. You've been listening to these tracks. On my account. You even hit a private playlist. She looked up at me then. Not startled. Not scared. Just calculating. You must have left your account logged in, she said. Maybe someone came in and it. What? Broke into the house to make a sex playlist and hearted under my name? She laughed again, quieter this time. Almost condescending. You're being paranoid. No. I'm being observant. She stood, still in her robe, and walked to the sink. Her back to me. You always overthink everything. Something about that line made the bottom drop out of my stomach. Because it wasn't just deflection. It was a tactic. And she'd used it before. Gaslight. Deflect. Dismiss. I thought of the night she stayed late at work and didn't text me back until 2 a.m. The red wine on her breath that didn't match the place she said she'd gone. The random new playlist I dismissed as an algorithm fluke. No, this wasn't a glitch. I stared at the back of her head, trying to feel anything other than cold. And all I could think was, if this is the soundtrack, what's the movie? I didn't bring it up again after that morning. There's a silence that couples fall into when one of them is lying. It's not a Cold War, not overt. It's quieter than that. It's the way you both suddenly stop narrating your day out loud. The way you eat in separate rooms without meaning to. The way every good night starts to sound like a question. By Wednesday, the playlist had disappeared from my account. Deleted. Gone. Like it was never there. I checked the cache on my phone and found remnants. A few broken links. Blank titles. Ghosts of songs that once meant something to someone. Just not me. But I wasn't imagining them. I had screenshots. I'd saved them before I said anything. I didn't know why I had, but now I was grateful for it. Because the more I looked at them, the more something stood out. It wasn't just the song choices. It was the timing. Each track had a timestamp. A listening window. Every night, like clockwork, between 12:45 a.m. and 2:30 a.m., someone was playing through them. Not shuffled. Not sporadically. In order. As if they were being followed. Played along with. Or played for someone. That's when I noticed the subtle pattern. Every fourth night. Sometimes every third. But never consecutive. Always late. Always private. I started keeping notes. Didn't tell her. Didn't let on. I played the role of the sleepy boyfriend again, quiet, agreeable, predictable. She bought it, or pretended to. I'd stay in bed when she got up late, mumble something like, "You okay?" and let her whisper back, "Just getting water." Sometimes she didn't say anything at all. I'd hear the floorboards creak toward the living room. The subtle click of her phone. Once, the softest laugh. It didn't sound like my laugh. I checked again the next morning. The listening history had another 1 a.m. timestamp. Same playlist. Same order. So I decided to test it. Thursday night, I waited until she fell asleep, then opened her phone. Still unlocked. I went straight to messages. Not texts. I knew better than to expect those. Everyone who's hiding something knows to keep the dirt away from texts. No, I went to Instagram. Her DMs were mostly clean, but one name stuck out. A name I didn't recognize. M. Just that. All lowercase. No last name. No photo. But the most recent message was from her. "You up?" No reply. A few scrolls up, and my blood ran cold. Voice notes. She'd sent multiple over the last month. Short, 5 to 10-second clips. Laughter. A humming version of a song from the playlist. One ended with her whispering, "This one always makes me think of you." I played it on mute. Didn't dare hear her voice like that. Not now. Not when it was meant for someone else. I tapped on the profile. Private. Nothing in common. No mutual followers. But the account was old, 2017, and the message history went back weeks, maybe months if she'd deleted earlier ones. I took screenshots. Each one felt like slicing open a new wound, but I kept going. The more I saw, the less I recognized her. The way she typed, the emojis she never used with me, the way she said things like, "I need to feel something real tonight," or "I don't want to wake him." The worst part? None of it was explicit, just intimate enough to make it worse. Whoever M was, they weren't pushing. They barely replied. But that made it more disturbing, because she was doing all the work, all the initiating. The playlist, the voice notes, the late-night whispers, it was all her. That was the first twist. She wasn't being chased. She was reaching out. I put her phone down gently, stared at the ceiling for hours, my mind looping back to the moment we met. The girl who said she loved quiet nights in, long walks, reading in bed. She had been that girl once, I think. Now, I wasn't sure who was sleeping next to me. The next day, I casually mentioned a name while we were brushing our teeth. "Do you know anyone named him?" She spit, rinsed, wiped her mouth. Nope, not even a pause. That was the moment I knew. Not because of what she said, but because of how easily she said it. You don't lie like that unless you've done it before. I watched her walk out of the bathroom, her robe brushing the doorframe. She left a faint citrus smell behind her. I used to love that scent. Now it made my throat tighten. That evening, I did what any paranoid man does when he's losing grip on his reality. I dug deeper. Backtracked the email addresses linked to the Instagram profile. Used a forgotten tool from an old job, a metadata scraper I'd built for testing ad campaigns. Turns out M had a Gmail link to the handle. I searched the name on my work laptop. What popped up was a SoundCloud profile. Anonymous. Minimalist. Just 2 tracks. Both named after timestamps. 2:07 a.m. For days later. The audio was nothing like what I expected. Whispers. Soft static. Layers of someone speaking under reverb. But then, faintly, her voice. Singing. Off-key. Barely audible, but unmistakable. She'd recorded herself for him. Not for fun. Not for followers. This was private. Intimate. A gift. I played the track again, volume up, until the distortion peeled back just enough for the words to bleed through. It was a line from one of the songs on the playlist. "I only come alive in the dark, when you're watching." I closed the tab, shut my laptop, sat still for almost an hour. What scared me most wasn't the affair. It was realizing I'd been edited out of the soundtrack of her life. Like I was a background noise she had to silence to hear the real song. I told myself I would confront her. That night, I rehearsed it in my head. Cool, calm, surgical. I'd ask her plainly. Show her the screenshots. Play the song. Watch her face. Wait for the crack. But the moment passed. She fell asleep early, curled up with her back to me, blanket pulled too high. The way she used to when we first moved in together, back before our sleep patterns drifted apart like tectonic plates. I watched her breathe for a long time, like maybe her stillness would give me something her voice wouldn't. And then, quietly, I got out of bed. Back to the computer. Back to M. The SoundCloud account had changed. The profile picture was now solid black. The tracks were gone. Gone. Just hours after I played them. It felt personal. Like someone knew I'd found them. Like someone had been watching me watch her. I went back through the screenshots. I still had the waveforms, the titles, the usernames. But not the sound. The actual files were nowhere. No cache. No save. Just silence. I double-checked the Instagram account. Still private. Still unchanged. But something was off. It had vanished from her recent DMs. As if she'd deleted the entire thread. Or someone else had. A slow, crawling dread moved through my spine. This wasn't just deception. This was curated absence. A deliberate erasure. One piece at a time. I opened the Spotify app again. Scan my account. The recently played section showed ambient white noise tracks. Nothing else. She'd covered her tracks. But not completely. One of the ambient tracks had a hidden title when I clicked into it. Beneath the generic name, the description read, "Listen alone. Volume low. Headphones in." My hand shook as I hit play. It was a loop. Faint piano, barely their vocals. And then, a man's voice. Not singing. Speaking. A monologue, almost. Quiet, measured. You ever love someone who doesn't know you anymore? Who rewrites you? Then silence. Then her voice again. Whispering, "Start over." I pulled the headphones off like they burned. That voice wasn't mine. It wasn't someone I knew. It wasn't him either. It was someone new. A third voice. I stood up too fast, the chair scraping against the floor. This wasn't a conversation. It was a collaboration. I stared at the blank playlist screen and realized something I'd missed in all my paranoia. This wasn't about a person. It wasn't an affair. It was a performance. Whoever she was speaking to, it wasn't happening in DMs anymore. This had evolved. They were leaving messages for each other in plain sight, hidden in tracks, buried in accounts, anonymous drops in a sea of noise, a trail of digital intimacy no algorithm could catch. I suddenly remembered something she'd said once. Late at night, half asleep. Some people don't text. They broadcast. You just have to know where to listen. At the time, I thought she meant radio. Now I realized she was talking about herself. The next morning, I asked her point blank, "Who's M?" She didn't blink. No one. Then who's the voice in those tracks? What tracks? Her tone was calm. Too calm. I stood across from her in the kitchen, coffee growing cold in my hand. "You're not just talking to someone," I said. "You're publishing something." A twitch. Subtle. Right eye? She set her mug down slowly. "I think you're confusing things." "No. I think you're hiding them." She met my eyes then. Nothing in her face, but a softness I didn't trust. "Why would I need to hide something from you?" she asked. That's when I realized something else. She wanted me to find this. Maybe not all of it, but enough. The playlist. The timing. The trails. No one makes a private playlist on someone else's account by accident. No one sings into a microphone and posts it to a shared server unless they want it heard. The betrayal wasn't in the secrecy. It was in the invitation. She was showing me the door, daring me to walk through it, to know the whole truth, or to turn away. I went to work that day in a fog. Every track I heard in my headphones felt like a message. Every lyric, every beat. I couldn't listen to music without wondering who else had heard it first, who it was meant for. That night, I did what I'd been avoiding. I searched the phrase she'd whispered in the recording. "Start over." It brought up a series of blogs. Anonymous. Long form. Sparse formatting. One was hosted on a ghost domain. Buried in the footer, a Spotify embed. A single track, titled "For the One Who Stayed." The lyrics? I'd heard them before. On the playlist for her. I played it. The opening line was a woman's voice, hers. A spoken word fragment. "He thinks I'm asleep, but I'm writing him out in lowercase." The voice faded into distortion. Then silence. Then one more word. Erase. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, and realized I had no idea how long this had been going on. How many tracks? How many aliases? How many voices weren't mine? She wasn't cheating. She was rewriting her life, one song at a time. And I was just the ghost she hadn't muted yet. I found the second phone the next morning. She'd left her gym bag unzipped in the hallway. I wasn't looking for anything, at least, that's what I told myself, but the black rectangle tucked beneath a tangle of leggings and tangled headphones caught my eye. It wasn't her usual phone. Smaller. Older. Scuffed edges. No case. I held it in my hand and waited for it to light up. Nothing. Screen black. I pressed the side button. It vibrated softly. No passcode. Just opened. Like it had been waiting for me. There were no texts. No apps. Only one thing on the home screen. Spotify. I tapped it. There it was. Not my account this time. A burner profile. No photo. No name. Just an alias. Her mirror. Dozens of playlists. Private. All labeled in lowercase. For when he sleeps. The version of me I can't say out loud. His silence. I opened one. It wasn't music. Each track was a voice memo uploaded as an audio file. Hers. Not singing. Talking. Whispers. Rambles. Arguments with no one. Conversations where she played both parts. Confessions. Confusions. The first one started with, "He thinks I'm happy." Another. "Sometimes I rehearse the breakup in the shower." Another. "I thought loving him would fix me. I was wrong. It wasn't cheating. Not in the traditional sense. She wasn't with someone else. She was with everyone but me." These weren't love letters. They were evictions. One-sided monologues designed to erase me in time. To paint me as a ghost before I even knew I'd died. And people were listening. The followers tab showed 26. Anonymous accounts. No bios. No followers of their own. Listeners. Lurkers. She was building an audience. Not for fame. For something else. A kind of witness. I played one last file. It opened with silence. Then her voice, soft and strange. "If he ever hears this, I hope he knows I tried. I tried to love the version of me he loved. But she was never real." The file ended with static. I turned off the phone and sat on the stairs, her gym bag beside me like the corpse of a life I didn't recognize. She came in 20 minutes later, keys jingling, headphones in. When she saw me, she froze. Then her eyes flicked to the bag, to the phone in my hand. And for the first time since this started, she didn't lie. She didn't say a word. Just sat on the opposite step, looked at the floor, and said, "You found it." My voice barely came out. "What is this?" She closed her eyes. "A backup. For what?" "For when I forget who I am." I didn't understand. "You're not cheating on me?" She shook her head, a tired little motion. "No." "Then who are you talking to?" She hesitated. "Then, myself." She rubbed her temples. "It's like there's a version of me that lives in the silence between us. And she needs somewhere to go." I didn't speak. Because what do you say to that? How do you respond to a betrayal that wasn't physical or even emotional, but existential? She looked at me, finally. "I didn't mean to lie. I just didn't think you'd understand." "You were right," I said quietly. Because I didn't. The rest of that day passed in a fog. We didn't fight. We didn't cry. We barely spoke. At one point, she walked into the living room holding the second phone. "I'll delete it." But I knew she wouldn't. Because it wasn't about hiding. It was about creating space where I didn't exist. That night, I listened to the old tracks again. I wanted to hate her voice. But it sounded too much like someone I used to know. Someone soft. Someone honest. The girl I fell in love with. Not this new version curated, poetic, performative. But then again, maybe I was the curated one. The version she invented to keep the real one company. A few days passed like that. Fragile. Breathless. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon, I got an email. From an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: "Thought you should hear this." No text. Just a file. An audio recording. I almost deleted it. Almost. But I didn't. I played it. It wasn't her voice. It was his. A man's. The one from the distorted track. Clearer now. Saying her name. Calling her babe. Asking when she's coming back. Telling her, "He doesn't see you." Not really. But I do. And then her voice. Laughing. Not a whisper. Not a sigh. A laugh I hadn't heard in months. And at last, the voice I thought didn't exist. The one she swore wasn't real. The one she built playlists for. I didn't sleep after I heard the recording. Not a single second. I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, that man's voice echoing in my head. His confidence. The way he said her name like he owned it. It wasn't just that he existed. It was that she'd given him access to the parts of her she'd locked away from me. And that laugh. That raw, unfiltered laugh. She hadn't laughed like that around me in over a year. Not once. I kept replaying the audio. Not just for the words. For the background. I heard it, barely, but it was there. Our kitchen. The old hum of our fridge. The tick of the wall clock that always ran 1 second slow. A sound only someone who'd stood in our house would recognize. He'd been here. Not just in her playlists. In our home. While I worked. While I slept. While she told me she was tired, or anxious, or needed space. He was here. And suddenly, I could feel it. The rearranged bookshelf. The faint cologne on the bathroom towel I thought was mine. The second toothbrush that wasn't quite my shade of blue. She didn't just write me out. She replaced me. Quietly. Perfectly. Like layering a new track over an old one, until the original faded into noise. I needed to know who he was. So I went back to the email. I traced the domain. A custom address. Used once. Then deleted. But the IP gave me a location. 3 neighborhoods over. I pulled open a city map, matched it against her Uber history. I'd quietly enabled the feature months ago after one of her late-night walks ended with her phone dead and me worried. She'd gone there. Multiple times. Never for long, but always at night. I waited until she left for yoga the next day, her new obsession, conveniently at 6:30 p.m. twice a week, alone, never with friends, and I followed the GPS trail. The address led to a basement apartment in a duplex off Valmere Street. Ivy on the bricks. Uncut grass. One porch light dangling crooked. I parked half a block down and waited. At 7:12 p.m., she walked up the path. No yoga mat. No gym bag. Just her. She knocked twice. No hesitation. The door opened, and he stepped out. I recognized the voice before I saw the face. Tall. Slight. Shaggy hair. Faded tattoo on his wrist. Not some charming threat. Not some charismatic rival. Just a man who looked like he'd written poetry in the margins of college notebooks and never quite let go. He kissed her. She leaned in like it was the most natural thing in the world. I sat in the car, fist clenched, breath tight. Not with rage. With clarity. She hadn't fallen into this. She built it. Curated it. Piece by piece. That night, I didn't say anything when she came home. She showered, changed, curled up next to me like always. Kissed me goodnight. Told me she loved me. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the silence fill the cracks in my skull. By morning, I had a plan. I started with the Spotify account. The real one. Mine. I changed the password. Logged out her devices. Revoked access. Then I made a new playlist. Just one song. A track I wrote myself. I'd never done that before. Just 60 seconds of silence. Then my voice. Calm. Even. I know. I know everything. The playlists. The recordings. The second phone. Him. The fake emails. The late-night poetry sessions in someone else's kitchen. I know. I uploaded it. Titled it. The final track. Then I shared it to her burner account. I didn't send a message. Didn't need to. I waited. The next night, she didn't come home from yoga. By midnight, her phone buzzed on the table. Unlocked. Open to Spotify. The playlist had been played. 3 times. No other messages. No confrontation. She walked in at 12:38 a.m. Hair damp. No makeup. Hoodie pulled tight. She stood in the doorway like a ghost who had just remembered it was still alive. I heard it, she said. I nodded. She didn't move. I asked, how long? She didn't pretend not to know what I meant. A year. Maybe more. It didn't start with him. It started with me. I already knew. But hearing her say it, I don't know. It landed differently. She stepped closer. I thought I could be both versions. The one you loved and the one who left. You've been gone for a long time. I know. She sat across from me on the edge of the couch. I didn't do this to hurt you. But you did. I know. A long silence. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out the second phone. Laid it between us. I'll delete it, she said again. I stared at it. And for the first time, I realized I didn't care. That phone wasn't a weapon anymore. It was a monument. A tombstone for a version of her that had never let me in. You already did, I said. She nodded, her eyes glossy. But she didn't cry. Neither did I. She left that night. Didn't take much. A suitcase. Her toothbrush. The hoodie she always stole from me and said smelled like safety. She looked back once at the doorway. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just let the silence wrap around me like a song with no chorus. It's been 3 weeks since she left. The house doesn't feel empty. It feels paused. Like a song that stopped mid-measure but never resumed. Her things are gone. Drawers half full now. The bathroom counter suddenly clean. The indentation on her side of the bed smoothed out like it never existed. I catch myself reaching for her shampoo in the shower, even though the scent is gone. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me still thinks I'll find her there. The second phone is gone, too. She took it with her. I didn't ask her to. I didn't need to. But the sound of it stayed. Sometimes at night, I still hear her voice in my head, not the way she spoke to me, but the way she spoke into that phone, whispering confessions to strangers, narrating a life I thought we were sharing. Turns out she was just archiving me, preserving a version of our love that she could edit and cut and re-record until it sounded like something else. I used to think betrayal looked like lipstick on a collar, late-night texts, a slip of the tongue. But hers was more surgical, slower, a gradual turning of the dial until the station changed and I didn't even notice. I didn't listen. That's the part one keep coming back to. I was there every day. I said the right things, made dinner, took her calls, held her in bed while she cried about deadlines and family drama. But I wasn't listening. Not really. I was hearing my version of her, not the one unraveling beneath. That doesn't excuse what she did. The voice notes, the lies, him. But it makes the silence make sense. I've gone through everything now. All the playlists, the accounts. I traced what I could. Turns out M wasn't just a fling. He was a writer. The kind who lives in late-night forums and deletes every blog post after 24 hours. I found one entry that hadn't been scrubbed yet, archived by a bot on some mirror site. It was titled, How to Love Someone Who Already Left You. The piece wasn't about her. Not exactly. But I could feel her between the lines. One line hit me hardest. She didn't cheat. She disappeared. Slowly. Beautifully. Like a melody fading just before the final note. I closed the browser. Deleted the bookmark. Let it go. I don't check the Spotify account anymore. I don't play my old playlists, either. They feel like artifacts from a life I wasn't really living. Instead, I started building a new one. One track at a time. Not curated. Not perfect. Just songs that sound like now. Static-filled instrumentals. Unfinished demos. Lyrics that don't rhyme. Things that don't pretend to mean more than they do. The kind of music that doesn't try to be anything except honest. I made one playlist. Just one. I didn't name it. Didn't share it. Didn't heart any of the songs. It's not for anyone else. Just me. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I put it on low. Let the static fill the room. Let the imperfection breathe. I don't know where she is now. I haven't asked. Haven't stalked. Haven't reached out. I assume she's still making things. Stories. Songs. Some version of her drifting through the digital ether, whispering into the dark for whoever needs to hear her. Maybe that's all she ever wanted. Not love. Not even connection. Just audience. And maybe I was never a partner. Just the room she rehearsed in. Sometimes, when I pass the mirror in the hallway, I catch my own reflection and wonder if she'd recognize me now. If I'd recognize her. I'm not angry anymore. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that feels earned. Some endings don't come with a scream or a slam door. Some endings slip in through your headphones at 1 a.m., wrapped in soft vocals and low fidelity. Some endings hum and fade and leave you sitting in the dark, listening to the last track of a life that was already over. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.